Sound check for remote participants. You could, you just take, or one of our routes.
May I know who joined the calls?
And we had a route that we won't mention now, we can see all the lots. The phone. She's got children. One on the place. Doing great. We get part way, then Uber the last. Right.
I thought.
Man, good to be on track, Mr. Smith.
Is there anything that we need to call a special meeting?
Smith, sound check, please.
My part.
Well, I mean, everything's in, but the time sensitive piece is that.
Alex.
Well,
Contract?
I mean, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
we gotta move forward.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, not to be like
Mr. Smith, we
focused on,
don't,
but like I was
we
keen
don't
to
hear you.
prove that, you know?
Yes. The other one is the freeze grant
Yeah.
application. Because, you know, we weren't even gonna, I was counting on the ops board.
Sound check, Ms. Hayes.
Because we're not even.
I'm here.
Thank you.
To revisit
Sound check,
their
Mrs.
February
Heiss.
1 meeting, because there won't be a quorum. And the application's due like February, but with the ops board recommending it, that was gonna give us. So
So we can't apply by.
Mr. Smith, can you hear us?
we can, we'll look into, it. We can apply. What I could do is just.
Shannon Holmes is here.
See,
That may be bad.
just taking the PRTC.
Thank you. Good morning.
I have some, you know,
Who's gonna
governing.
provide non-voting feedback and support
Exactly.
today?
Yeah,
Let's do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's.
Are we ready? Okay.
Everybody ready?
All right,
Yes.
good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the January 19th gathering of VRE Operations Board members. Unfortunately, we don't have a physical quorum present, but who are here in the room will still discuss some of the issues that have been on our agenda. We won't be able to take any action. And those board members participating virtually, unfortunately, will not be able to actively participate, but can listen in. And if have questions on any of the topics covered, please do reach out to Mr. Dalton after the meeting. I think we can go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance regardless.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I think jump right into the safety moment. Rich?
Absolutely. So just a couple of things. Again, assignments have been made. At the back of the room, we've got primary, secondary 911 caller, primary, secondary on CPR, AED. And then we have a runner in the event. We do need to get somebody in this space. We can make contact with the security out front. So we have that covered. That's my safety moment, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. And I should have before that welcomed, we do have two new operations board members, both of whom are with us. One is with us in person. The Brentsville District Supervisor, Gordy, representing Prince William County, is here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you. And at-large Counselor Janin Holmes from the city of Fredericksburg, I think is tuning in and listening in virtually. We're really excited to have you both and look forward to working with you. Board members have seen the agenda and the minutes. We won't take any motions to approve them, but if you have changes to the minutes, you can reach out to staff before our next meeting. I'll move into Terry.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. I think for purposes of the record and the minutes, which we are taking, we should at least identify who's in the room.
Okay, great. So why don't we go ahead and do a quorum call, which probably won't be successful, but Ms. Lamb, do you want to work through that so we can identify who's in the room?
Miss Bagley,
Here.
Miss Bailey, present, Miss Bomke,
Here.
Miss Gary,
Here.
Mr. Gordy.
Here.
Miss Franklin, Miss Hayes, Miss Holmes, Mr. Karantonis, Mr. McLaughlin. Mr. Smith,
Online.
Ms. Mensing, Mr. Stork, and Mr. Walkinshaw.
Here, and just again, as a reminder, those board members who are online, unfortunately cannot speak or actively participate, can just listen in. I don't know if we're able to mute them so no mistakes are made, but hopefully they can hear that. Chair's comments, welcome everyone to what would have been our January meeting. Unfortunately, incoming Chair Baumke's first meeting, but she's going to do a great job with it regardless. You all have in front of you our 2023 annual report. Some really impressive accomplishments in here. Thank you to the staff for pulling it together. Before I turn the meeting over, I just want to take a moment to talk about a few things that I think we all can be proud of over the last year. Things that we set out to do when we started last January. One thing that was a particular priority of mine was conducting the 360 review of our CEO, something that the board had discussed for a number of years. Got that done, as well as the establishment of the policy to regularize that. I think it's a really important governance improvement for us that will hopefully pay dividends for many, many years to come. The adoption of our FY 2025 budget, which allows for the first time Saturday service for VRE, which is the beginning, I think, of our transformation into a full service commuter rail service, and gives us the opportunity to reach a lot of new markets. I am so excited to see that first train filled with families from Stafford or Manassas or Bristow, headed downtown to the mall to see the cherry blossoms, or anywhere else in our region that VRE serves. That's going to be really exciting. I know those of us who attended the opening of the LU, the life cycle overhaul and upgrade facility, will not forget that event. I never would have imagined that a heavy maintenance facility could be so exciting. But that was a lot of fun and a major accomplishment for the entire VRE team. And the groundbreaking for the new 700 space Manassas Park parking garage, and I drove by there recently, and it looks to be moving along very well. That's going to be a huge opportunity, not just for VRE, but for the Manassas and Manassas Park region to help them continue the growth of their downtown there. So thank you to the board members who did so much last year to make those successes possible, and to the Rich, to you and the VRE team, and appreciate all the support you all gave me during my time as chair. And with that, I'm very excited to pass the gavel, which we won't be able to use today, to our incoming chair, Supervisor Baumke from Stafford, who's a great friend of mine and a great leader. I know will do an amazing job leading us forward in 2024. So with that, Chair Baumke, I'm very pleased to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Supervisor Walkinshaw, and I'm excited to serve, and I'm honored to lead this board with all of my colleagues here and with the staff. We have phenomenal staff, and look forward to the work that we're going to do as a team this year. There are several exciting things on the horizon over the coming months. The first one, as Supervisor Walkinshaw mentioned, is the Saturday service. And I can tell you that I hear all the time people in our region that are very excited about that. Their eyes get really wide when they hear that we're going to have Saturday service. And also the completion of the Fredericksburg station and the Quantico station. So we're looking forward to that. And the adoption of our new system plan with a vision that carries us to 2050, which seems like a really long time from now, but it's right around the corner. But on behalf of the operations board, before we get moving, I want to thank Supervisor Walkinshaw for your leadership over this last year. It's not easy being chair. You have a lot to balance. But I want to thank you most of all. And I think what I learned from you was your calmness, your steady hand. And hopefully I can carry that on this year with the help of my colleagues here on the board. So with that, we would like to give you a plaque to remember your great year here. All right, the first thing I'd like to do is just introduce the members of this year's executive committee. We have Vice Chair Sarah Bagley from the City of Alexandria, Treasurer Dan Stork from Fairfax County, Secretary Ralph Smith, who is virtual this morning from the City of Manassas, our at-large representative, Andrea Bailey from Prince William County, and of course, our immediate past chair, James Walkinshaw, also from Fairfax County. We have 5 other VRE committees on which operational board members may serve. And this is my opportunity to encourage and all of you to be on a committee. The committees that you see up here with your smiling faces, you are not wed to those. You can stay on those committees, but I encourage you to also maybe join another committee. The other beautiful thing about our committee structure is even if you're on 3 committees, you can come to any committee meeting, and we encourage you to do that. We do have our first finance meeting at our February board meeting after the operations board meeting. So always feel free to come to any of the committee meetings. We welcome any kind of input that you have. The committees, as you see listed there, are audit and executive, the CEO, the chief legal officer evaluation, which we just completed, finance committee, legislative, and nominating. So if there are any committees that you would like to join or maybe, be shifted from, please reach out to me and Rich and I'll make that happen. Okay. And if you have any questions, I know we have 2 new board members. If you have any questions, please reach out, and more than happy to share any information we have on each committee. Okay, we're moving right on to Rich's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll get through my report and then I got just a couple of other announcements, but just from a safety perspective, this is the time of year that we not only push internally, but externally to our passengers and all concerned. Just a simple message this time of year, generally about being prepared for winter weather. Ironically enough, here we are today, but more specifically, and I believe I gave you this information last month as well, but this time of year, our largest incident with onboard passengers and stuff are slips, trips, and falls. So we just really push out we say sensible shoes, but really just paying attention, if you will, on inclement days like today to ensure that you're in some proper footwear. This is the time of year we see a lot of our passengers carrying multiple pairs of shoes with them on board the train and stuff, just simply, to help facilitate whatever they're doing that day. So just really wanted to drive that point home a little bit. I'll go through just on-time performance. Again, this is from December. We settled out from a system performance standpoint about 85%. This is consistent with, if we look at the calendar year, we were about 85%, maybe 84% system-wide. Still below our 90% target. And as we've talked throughout the year, various issues, various things that keep driving our on-time performance slightly down or not at target. This graph here does show that we did have a slight drop off in the month of December. I'll point out in this next slide, in the month of December, we actually saw a few anomalies that we hadn't seen in a while, and that's and a little bit concerning. Simply, vehicles on tracks, vehicles at grade crossings. We had a couple of incidences at Mine Road, as you recall, in Spotsylvania County, where we struck an unoccupied vehicle there. We had a couple other incidences where we had stalled vehicles, but we were notified in advance, so we were able to bring train to a safe stop. And even on the Manassas line, we had in the Manassas area, we had a couple of incidences, unfortunately, mixed in with our service. Amtrak actually struck a vehicle in there as well. Glad to report it was unoccupied. So we have that on our radar. And as we always do, grade crossing safety and stuff like that, but we're looking at some different ways to really kind of enhance awareness at grade crossings within our system. And of course, we don't do that alone. We do that with our partners at our host railroads and Amtrak, VRE, and others. So just want to put a note there. You're going to be hearing more from me about this throughout the year on some efforts to reduce those at grade incidences. Overall monthly ridership for the month of December, as we typically see, is down. We do operate several or reduced level services during the month, and of course, just ridership is down simply because folks are on vacation. And of course, from an average daily ridership, somewhat proportional to what I just said. Before we slip into the action items here that I'm going to give a brief summary, I just wanted to point out, in addition to the annual report in front of you, I did not want County Board Member Terraconis be the only one with the infamous "trains are cool" reflective wear. So you'll see everybody has one of those. We will definitely get we'll get a copy of those to board members that aren't here today. So just bring that to your awareness. Also, I'll point this towards our new operations board members, but this is going to be open to everybody. This is that time of year you start hearing me. Would love to get you out there and do system tours. For those that have participated in our system tours in the past, and you've heard right around this table, it's a very good experience, not just for you, but the staff as well. So Supervisor Gordy, Counselor Holmes, there's your invitation. Contact myself and or Leslie, or Joe Swartz helps out setting those up as well. And we'll get you out there. I encourage you to budget like a day, and we'll get out. We'll actually ride some trains. We'll review some facilities. We'll give you a look that not even generally speaking, not even a passenger would be able to see. So I just wanted to get that note out there as well. So that's essentially that's my report, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Okay, we'll move on to Express Riders' comments. Ms. Bailey, you have a question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Rich. Cute, huh?
Nice.
When we go on the excursion with you, can we bring any staff members, or is that just for us?
So the short answer is yes, of course, you can bring staff members. We do try to limit the numbers just simply because, like at one point in the tour, we'll have you sit up in the cab control car as we transition, and there's only 2 seats, plus your infamous guides or tour guides, if you will. So, but yes, you can have staff members come along, and we'll try to, we'll try to accommodate, if you will. But and even if we have to do it a couple, if it's that popular, we've had just staff members come out, and then of course, board members come out as well. So we'll do it any way you want to do. Just to get you out there. We want to get you out there.
Any other questions for Mr. Dalton? Okay, seeing none, I would like to just mention at the end of his CEO report, especially for the new members, we do have at the back, facility updates and capital project updates. So there's really some great information back there. So I just wanted to let the new board members know and kind of remind the rest of us, if you're interested in seeing where projects stand at this point in time. Given that we are not taking any action, do we still, I'll ask Mr. McIsaac, move forward with our comments from citizens?
I think it's fine if people are lined up to listen, to make a comment. I think you folks can certainly listen.
Okay, all right. So VRE accepts public comments both in person and electronically via the VRE website. Members of the public wishing to make public comments have 3 minutes and should state their full name and jurisdiction they live in. And written comments submitted before 8 a.m. this morning will be forwarded to the members of the board and attached to the official minutes. Do we have any members of the public here who would like to address the board? No?
No.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any electronically submitted comments?
Madam Chair, we had one electronically submitted comment, and that has been forwarded to members and will be attached to these minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. We do have a number of action items. As Mr. Walkinshaw mentioned, we are not going to be taking any action on any of these items, but we will be going through them each individually. And if you have questions, please do so. Ask questions. The first one is item A, authorization to issue a GEC 8 task order for final design services for the Alexandria Station improvements. Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in summary, we've given the operations board several briefings on the exact Alexandria Station improvement project. This recommended task order specifically is to move the final design into basically move the final design to 100%. It will accommodate just some recent coordinating activities with our other stakeholders and other partners. As you know, there's a fourth track project going on up there. And we talked briefly before about the replacement of the King Street and Commonwealth Avenue bridge structures. We have been in discussions with Mike and his team at VPRA, essentially to combine those elements, excluding the fourth track project, but the bridge structures and the station project together in a unified design and a single construction contract. So this task order will do that, finish doing that from a technical standpoint, and of course develop the requisite documents for a soon to be invitation for bids for construction. So we're excited to get to this point, and this will be a really good, obviously a very important project, but a very good project for all concerned. As you know, it's in that critical area of our network from Franconia, Springfield, Backlick North, in that very congested area. So happy to be at this point. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Rich. Any questions for Rich? Yes, Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm excited to see this task order come forward, be excited to vote on it when we do have a quorum. But I was curious, Rich, if I remember correctly, there was a fairly aggressive construction and delivery timeline when I think the VPRA did a presentation. It was, is that timeline that was presented last year to various groups in Alexandria sort of still our timeline? And can you just speak more broadly to when the construction bid would go out ideally and when we'd see next steps?
So I'll just say, yes, we previously, and I'll look to Mike because he's been leading the King and Commonwealth piece, and now we're combining it together. Fairly aggressive schedule. and primarily because we need to marry up with that fourth track project. We've recently had some discussions. We know there are some immediate pacing items that we need to get through, if you will, to be able to come back with an updated and or realistic construction schedule, frankly. And this task order will help us do that. I don't want to give you a month and a year at this point because, we need other folks to look at it, but it's, the overall objective, this is one of those, phase one projects. Or this area is a phase one project. And as you know, once completed, it opens up, additional service or opportunities for additional service, not for just VRE but Amtrak as well. So, we collectively are laser focused on that schedule, but I don't want to preempt this work that needs to be done here and throw a schedule out for you at this point.
Mike,
Happy to comment. So yes, we have a project. So there's an Alexandria four-track project, which is from 3/4 of a mile near Telegraph Road, starts about near Telegraph Road, goes all the way up to Long Ridge Aquatic Center conference. And that's what Long Ridge takes over. Within that, there are actually 5 other projects associated with that. Two of which you see here, one of which is Alexandria Station, another one's King and Commonwealth. Up by Crystal City, you have a VRE platform, an Amtrak platform, and the DCA Pet Bridge. Those are all very important people. And these all need to be aligned. There's a lot of work going on with Dallas, who's in the back of the room, and our team and CSX and others to make sure the pieces all fit and the timing all fits. One other note is that King and Commonwealth, just last night, we released our proposed FY25 budget and online, and Rich is a board member, and he'll be there on Tuesday when the board takes its first action. We briefed the board before and everyone seemed to be supportive. So hopefully the 84 million in the budget will eventually come to pass starting. Again, they'll pass the preliminary budget next week and then it'll go into effect. Some other series will go into effect in July. But that's actually a really big step because that was not part of these phase one projects. But after a lot of deliberation over the past few years and after a series of bridge strikes, 3 in 30 days at one point, at some point last year, I remember the exact time frame. It just clarified for us that if we're going to build these projects to improve on-time performance, it doesn't make any sense to leave a store point like the King and Commonwealth bridges that are literally next to the VRE station there, improve on-time performance, and every time you're a bridge strike, you're stuck somewhere else in the system waiting for someone to come out and clear that bridge strike. And when I say bridge strike, a truck, because it's substandard clearance, and then Sarah knows all this. And also, even if you strike the side, someone's got to come out and take a look at it. So we're excited that our budget allows us, well, at least the recommended budget allows us to move forward with that. And if we don't do it now, we're going to have to do it a few years after we finish construction, which doesn't make sense. We'd have to go back a second time after doing surgery in the Alexandria area, which is going to be delicate enough, and redo it again because these bridges are if anyone has not walked under the King and Commonwealth bridges, if you do so, you will understand, and that will say enough. So, it's important that we do it with the Alexandria four-track project and the Alexandria Station project that you all are leading in this agenda item has. So, because if you've been on the Alexandria Station, you need to raise the platforms, you need to raise the track, and that goes along with the bridge, one to another. So long-winded way of saying we're fully supportive of this. We're working through actually an agreement to make sure that parties are. It's not necessarily because we can't work together now, but what if in a few years we want to make sure we tie everything up in agreement in short order the next month or two, so that we can move forward with this. So we're excited that all these projects move forward. So thank you for letting me go on my. I'm excited about this kind of thing. Thanks for letting me indulging me.
Sure. Mr. Stewart.
So I want to just make sure I can translate what I just thought I heard you say, because I'm still trying to follow. So basically from Long Bridge all the way down through crossover in Laconia and down to, in essence, down to, I guess, Newington Road. That bridge is part of this, and down past the Parkway. That is really now looked at as one project to address all of the deficient bridges that are part of this. Because what I thought I heard say is that the Kings Bridge wasn't originally part of this, and now you're adding this on. So how many?
The King Street, so we have our required projects with CSX to secure more service. That will include full weekends, nighttime service, things of that nature, and also more Amtrak trips as well. Since we came up with those projects in 2019, a few years ago, this King and Commonwealth project keeps rearing its head because of the bridge strikes, because of the substandard clearance, and because it needs to be done. The bridge is so old. Otherwise, we have to go back in very short order and do surgery again a second time and tear the same exact area. The 4-track is coming through this area. So,
That wasn't part of the original project, is what I'm hearing you say. So this is now.
well, the 4-track coming through.
Yeah, I got that.
So the 4-track coming through is.
Yeah.
It's a repairing of the bridges at the same time. So we were still building the 4-track. And in doing so, the engineering is showing that it's best to rebuild the bridges. So there's the track coming through, the bridge structure needs to be rebuilt, is basically what the engineering shows. Does that make sense?
4-track will ensure that the existing bridges that are deficient in terms of height, et cetera, will be replaced or will be repaired in some way so that they no longer are substandard. Is that?
We're still working through that, but there's going to be, either way, the general public's going to see it as a new type of structure, because it'll be raised about a foot and a couple inches at King, and then widened a little bit. And this is very key because this has service from both the Manassas line. And near Telegraph Road is a point called AF, where the Manassas line train comes in, and where the Fredericksburg line trains come in. Also, plus all the Amtrak trains from New Orleans to Florida. So this is a key choke point for, and also all the CSX mainline traffic, north and south as well. So it's a big choke point for traffic, and every time that bridge is struck, it slows down traffic from New Orleans to New York and Boston and Florida. Not just VRE and Amtrak traffic, but CSX traffic.
You're adding, this is being done to make it all part of the same project.
Yes.
Which I get the logic of that, because I just wrote multiple times, and let's make sure it's done right. I just was wanting to make sure that I understood what's different.
Because we're coming in and doing the Alexandria 4-track project now.
Yes.
It's best to do this bridge rehabilitation and the Alexandria Station rehabilitation at the same time.
Thank you for the additional information. Does anybody have any other questions? All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next item. Item B, authorization to amend the GEC 8 task order for engineering support for the Crossroads MSF employee parking project. Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we're seeking authorization to amend the existing task order. And as we reported out again at one of our meetings last year, you all, most of you got to see the completion of the lube facility at the Crossroads Maintenance and Storage Facility, but the next, there's a series of additional projects as part of the master plan for the Crossroads complex. So this is the next project, this being an employee parking lot. We currently have the employees parking in a temporary lot. And so we did a conceptual design for a new employee parking lot. And as we progress through that concept, we basically got to a point where the constructability of at least the current work lended itself to be more costly to construct. So we asked the design team to kind of go back to the drawing board. They've done that. We've come up with a concept that works and from a constructability standpoint is likely to be less costly. So now I need to take that work, get it to final design so we can get out there and get it procured. And of course, part of this updated task order will include all of the elements of technical assistance and stuff once we get a contractor on board to be able to go out and construct that parking lot. So that's my summary, Madam Chair.
Okay, questions for Mr. Dalton? All right, seeing none, moving on to item C, authorization to amend the contract for final design services for the VRE Crystal City Station Improvements Project.
Thank
Yes.
you, Madam Chair. Yeah, another exciting step forward in the bundle of projects within the larger program in that Alexandria to DC corridor. Specifically for the Crystal City Station Improvement Project, where we're at is the design level is at 60%. We've obviously, once again, working with all the associated stakeholders, including VPRA, CSX, and the developer, owner of adjacent property there, JBG Smith. Anyway, Dallas gave you an update on the project at the last meeting. So essentially where we're headed now is by amending the current contract, that'll take us to the 90% design level and put us in a position, while we'll continue to collaborate with those stakeholders and stuff, we'll want to take it to the 90% level, get a near final design there, and then we'll come back to you and to be able to take that design to the 100%. And then of course, all the other pieces that would go to that, construction administration and all those different elements to go construct that project. So that's my summary, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Rich. Any questions for Mr. Dalton? Okay, moving right along. Adoption of the 2024 VRE Operations Board Meeting Schedule. All right, Rich.
So as an item that we normally bring you in January and is required by the bylaws, and you should have a copy of that in front of you. Just the operations board meeting calendar. I guess technically, I just assume that because we can adopt it today, we'll adopt it next month. That I assume moving forward, we just act like that's the official calendar. I'm looking over there at Steve. I'll just make a note that in some previous years, what we've done is we've looked out. Of course, our meetings are regularly scheduled third Friday of every month. We've looked out to see if there's any potential conflict, with weekends and that type of stuff. This year, we didn't find any. And as the chair mentioned, that the only change you'll see is that we did move up the first or propose to move up the first finance committee meeting for the month of February, and that was in order to have the finance committee basically look at specifically requests by Supervisor Stork to dive in a little bit more, with our 6-year forecast and stuff. So we just thought we'd get that effort started sooner rather than later in the calendar year. So that's really the only big difference there. But if you guys see something and if there's potential conflicts or whatever, just let us know, and when we come back next month to get it approved, we'll accommodate for that. So that's my
Okay.
summary, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just curious if, when we discuss, like a retreat or will that be something on the calendar for 2024 or when do we talk about? I just don't remember. My apologies, like when we, and if we are going to do that again this year.
So that was I'll just say a talking point or can be a talking point with the executive team.
Okay.
Last year, we did put it on the calendar initially because not just the executive team, but the entire operations board had been talking about that, you know, a month or two prior. So we did have a little bit of heads up, but we can always come back and amend this. We can do whatever. If the executive team and the entire operations board decides that we want to do something like that again. So.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'll just add here that all of our alternates receive all of the emails that come out from Mrs. Lamb. And if you know that you're going to have conflicts in your agenda, if you could please get your alternates on board as soon as possible. We would really appreciate that. And I know Ms. Lamb would appreciate it even more. Okay, let's see. The next one is the RAISE grant. Item E, recommend authorization to submit U.S. Department of Transportation fiscal year 2024 RAISE grant application. All right, Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, again, this is seeking a recommendation by the Ops Board to take this to the commissions. This is just simply to apply for a RAISE grant. I'm just going to say, we'll continue to look at this, but timing wise, the RAISE grant, I believe the applications are due, I'm looking back at Christine, February 18th. 28th. I knew there was an 8 in February in there. So, so they're due February 28th. And we were obviously thinking that if we got the Ops Board recommendation, we'd take it to the commissions, but we'll work through that. First of all, I want you aware of what we're doing here, what we're proposing. And again, this is just an application. And I'm going to throw a crazy slide up at you here. And this is lifted right out of the concepts out of a CAD system or whatever, but this is the Broad Run expansion complex, if you will. And as one of the later phase projects, I will just point out for the people in the room, is again a concept of proposed residency road extension that basically flies over the tracks and drops down into the parking lot. There's also on the Norfolk Southern line, there's also an expanded third track, almost 2.2 miles of an expanded third track out there. What we've proposed in this version of the RAISE grant, we found that it just really matches up specifically if we take these two projects and submit an application or two project elements, submit an application to advance the design on those two elements. And you know, not mutually exclusive from the entire project, but just kind of take those and advance those designs. Those are something that we would do, you know, later in the decade anyway. But specifically, take those concepts and lift them up, get enough engineering behind them to where we can do some accurate cost estimates and stuff like that. I'll point out another thing here is that obviously, at the end of the day, we're not even sure that VRE would go and construct this, particularly the residency road extension. And so we're working in coordination with Prince William County. The other very interested stakeholder here is the Manassas Airport, which is over in this area here. They have some very substantial expansion plans out there. So again, an opportunity for us. This is just an application. We'll be asking other entities to support this. And so essentially, thought is submit the application, give it a shot and see if it fits in as we think it does nicely with the the criteria. So that's my summary, Madam Chair.
Okay, so with the grant being due to be submitted February 28th, PRTC will have already met the beginning of the month and then us later. So I guess the question would be, and we obviously can't vote, but we could do kind of a straw poll here. Are there members of the operations board that are not in favor of us submitting this grant? And we probably wouldn't be able to vote on it till our next meeting. But could we give Rich an indication that we would like to move forward and then he could at least take it to PRTC? Is that acceptable, Mr. Isaac?
You know,
I saw you moving your body.
well, you know, I think it's great that you have a discussion. You can certainly bring this back to the commissions when you meet. I think that, as Rich was alluding to, that there's a little bit of logistical problems anyway, because while PRTC is meeting at the beginning of February, NBTC is not. So we're in a situation where I think we're just bringing it to NBTC to ratify the submission. So we could just do the same thing with Prince William. We just skip it entirely in February, have you take action at the February meeting, and then you'd have an actual formal recommendation to both commissions when they take action in March. That may be the easiest way to do this.
Okay, that works for me. Anybody opposed to that? Okay, anybody have questions about the raise grant? Mr. Stork?
Just to make, so it's due February 28th, so we're basically asking them, there's some kind of approval that needs to be done to submit this or not? I'm not clear about where that is.
I think that the way this VRE structure is organized, the commissions who are actually the responsible parties are the ones that approve grant applications. So we have to go to both commissions to have them approve the grant. I think because of the timing on this, and we've done this in the past, where staff has gone ahead, in consultation with the chairman and the executive committee, secretly somehow.
Go ahead and file it.
And then have the commissions ratify it. The worst that would happen is that you'd have to withdraw the grant application.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Okay, that's what I want to be sure.
Sure. Ms. Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the level of collaboration and support that you would need from Prince William County, could you just kind of explain that to us, Rich, in terms of what that looks like? And I'm not trying to take my colleagues.
You're welcome. We're thinking in old
We're in the
life
same
here, so yeah.
Okay.
So just simply put, as because we're partners
Mhm.
and generally speaking, this is well, it's in the Prince William County jurisdiction. Of course, the station shares a little bit with the city of Manassas and stuff like that. What we generally do is we would seek, a letter of recommendation from Prince William County. And I believe, and I'm looking back at Christine, but I believe we've already reached out. Like I said, our staff's talked.
Okay.
And of course, we'll be seeking something similar from the likely, I'm trying to think of our list right now, Norfolk Southern,
Mhm.
the Manassas Airport Authority, those folks and stuff like that. So we'll be asking for a letter of support for this raise grant, just like if Prince William County was submitting one as well, we would be here in front of this body getting authorization to submit a letter of recommendation as well.
Absolutely.
So
And
I
I'm
get to-
full support,
okay,
absolutely.
okay.
And I'm full support. I just want to hear you say it.
Okay.
I just wanted to hear you say it. And I know based upon the strategic expansion that we're having in this area, that the collaboration is absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mr. Gordy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is exciting to hear about. Look forward to learning more about the project. I just would point out that when we had all the rain recently, the access to the train station was blocked because Piper Lane flooded. So this is an area that is, there's no other way to describe it. Access to this area is horrible. And if we can improve access to the train station, and then also, as you mentioned, what's happening at the airport, transportation challenges in this area are very, there are a lot of unique challenges with this area. But there's also potential for an incredible amount of growth, because this is also a development area for part of the county. So I love the fact that this is sort of getting us ahead of the challenges. Look forward to learning more about it and working with my colleagues to seeing how we can best support this. So thank you.
Hey, any other questions or comments?
I will just add,
Sure.
Madam Chair, that I was only given one slide to show a picture. My second slide was the most recent flooding of Piper Lane that just occurred a week ago. Of course, it's somewhat of an ongoing occurrence. So your point is well taken. Yes, we need to improve long-term accessibility to this facility, plus the airport complex and stuff over there. And that's the collective we.
Absolutely. So,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. So that concludes the items that would have been considered for action. We're now moving on to the information items, our spending authority report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Spending authority report, we had some task orders and purchase orders. Again, if anybody has any questions, this is for the benefit of new members. As this is a report I give each month, that I'm delegated certain authorities up to 200,000 for purchase orders, task orders, and stuff like that. So I just report out what essentially in the month of January, what we did in the month of December. And my intent is never to go into detail, but if you do have some questions and stuff, they're out there and we can have those. But again, purchase order and a handful of task orders that were submitted in the month of December. That's my summary, Madam Chair.
Any questions about the spending report? Okay, seeing none, moving on to B, System Plan 2050 Update Status Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those that don't know, Mr. Nick Ruiz at the back, who's in 2023 has kept us amply informed about our long-range plan, system plan. Of course, Christine over there in the corner has contributed as well. Wanted to start the new year out fresh with an update and basically a look ahead here over the next couple of months of where we're headed. So I do want to point out, this is meant to just be an overview and stuff like that. Glad to have whatever level of discussion we can have. But as you know, we've had one-on-one discussions with other board members. We want to continue to encourage that, continue to have, that open dialogue. Nick will likely get into. We still have some, some level of outreach with the public, and so there's still some things ongoing here. So this is intended just to be simply an update. So with that, Mr. Ruiz.
All right. Thank you, Rich.
You got a clicker back?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Give me a couple minutes of intro, so we'll dive right into it. And happy snowy Friday to everyone. As Rich alluded to, this slide presentation is intended to be a distillation of over 150 slides presented to this board over the past year and a half. I think we're going to do it in about close. Wanted to give everyone a brief, recollection of the plan, the system plan as it's been phased out. We're in the third and final phase of a three-phase effort. We broke the plan up into three phases so that we could come to the board every couple of months with some findings and receive feedback and direction. And in the first phase, we really started to coordinate with our member jurisdictions and our key stakeholders and really tried to define in phase one, what was our vision and what were our goals for this plan? Like what did we hope to accomplish? What data did we need to gather? Phase two was really the bulk of the work. We came back to this body in June, presented a decent amount of information regarding some of our near-term 2030 concepts, and got feedback on some of the items that we needed to do some more research and some more analysis on. And we came back to you all in October and provided that information. And so now we're in the third and final phase. We are looking to 2050 now that we have a fairly good understanding for what we hope to accomplish between now and 2030. We're going to shift our focus to 2050. and hope to come back to this board in the spring, hopefully in the March timeframe, with a draft, what we're calling a 2050 service vision. And that's going to be our complete vision for how VRE would look from a service perspective in the next 30 years. And feel free to interrupt me between any of these slides if you have any questions about anything I present. Just a recap of the phase 2 conclusions. This was discussed in June and in October of last year. We reviewed that 2030 recommended service alternative. There were 4 alternatives presented, and this body was interested in going with a bit of a hybrid between 2 alternatives that helped us to ramp up in a fiscally responsible way our weekend service levels from the 6 round trips to the 13 round trips by 2030. We talked about some of the fairly significant expected capital and operating funding gaps that would be present by 2030, roughly $33 million in operating funding gap in the 2030 fiscal year, and an aggregate of $426 million in unidentified capital funding needs. So we also talked a little bit about the need to balance the number of train trips that we could provide under our existing agreements with the Commonwealth and Transforming Rail with the hard constraint of midday storage. Currently, we have space to store 13 train sets in DC, and we don't expect that to increase between now and 2030. So there's a high level constraint there that we have to work under. And then also understanding just how much more equipment we're going to need by 2030. We estimate that to be another 68 rail cars and 7 locomotives. And 21 of those rail cars are already under procurement, but that leaves a fairly significant amount of additional equipment that's needed to run that proposed service. And then finally, we talked about some of the things from a market perspective that really are going to move the needle in a most significant way by 2030 on ridership. That's going to be initiation and growth of weekend service, adding some of those, what we were calling the outer zone express trains that provide a more time competitive trip from the outer jurisdictions, as well as just simply natural growth in population and employment. I've got a slide which you've seen a couple times now that shows just how much growth in population we're expecting in the different parts of our region, and how that's going to contribute to transit demand and travel demand in the next 6 years. And so going all the way back to October of 2022, I believe, we presented a system plan vision, and this has guided our analysis and our work for the past several months. And that's that VRE is going to grow to serve the region as the transportation service of choice, creating meaningful connections and economic opportunities in a safe, sustainable, and equitable manner. And we feel that really the key word in this vision statement is grow, the word grow. It does us no good between now and 2050 to maintain the status quo, and we feel the best way to attract new riders and diverse trip types to our system is to provide more service in more diverse ways. And then these were the 4 goals that we discussed back in October. The first being safety and reliability. As Mr. McLaughlin alluded to with his comments on the King and Commonwealth Bridge, looking at every addition to service and to infrastructure in a way that maintains and improves the reliability of the network, because that was something that we heard from both the public and our riders over several VRE surveys, that reliability and trip time is really key to keeping them coming back to riding the service. This was a matrix that was presented at a previous meeting, just summarizing the feedback that we heard, the types of the primary topics kind of categorized on the top, and the entity or organization or group that really made those comments and indicated that these items were of greatest importance to them as we proposed different service levels between now and 2050. You can see that, I mean, for a lot of these things, they're fairly widely held across all of our external stakeholders and our riders as things that are important for us to pursue. And this is the slide that I was showing, and I don't know if there's a way we can turn, yeah, thanks. This shows just how much population growth we're projecting. Red, Fredericksburg Station catchment area, and blue, Manassas Station catchment areas. Starting with Fredericksburg line, looking at the outer jurisdictions, which is the darker red and darker blue bars, roughly 15% population growth between now and 2030, and a 35%, or over 35% growth in population between 2030 and 2050. Yes.
Quick question. Where it says outer Fredericksburg line, so that would be like Stafford.
That's correct. That would be Stafford, Spotsylvania, and Fredericksburg. And then for the Manassas, what we consider outer jurisdictions, that would be Manassas Park, Manassas, and Princeway, that part of Princeway. So you can really see that there's going to be a tremendous amount of just natural growth in the region. And that's one of the primary drivers of the increased demand for transit by that time. And so the service concepts that we're proposing really need to respond to this, because the highway network is going to be insufficient to handle that kind of demand by 2050. So there's a lot on this slide, but this is really just a summary of probably 15 or 16 slides from our June, October presentations on the board recommended 2030 service. What it was a hybrid of the alternative A and the alternative C that I presented in June, which essentially provides a slightly better, less headway or less time between trains, shorter headways in the peak period, peak direction, and provides a little less than one train per hour in the off-peak. The details of the headways and how many trains would be proposed to operate at the times are in the table to the right. But really the big innovation, or the big growth factor here, is the addition of weekend service, starting with the 6 round trips system-wide, potentially as early as this fiscal year, and growing incrementally as capacity and demand warrant to the full 13. I mean, those are broken down. We proposed by 7 round trips on the Fredericksburg line and 6 round trips on the Manassas. And this was presented as well, looking at what we're projecting for ridership by 2030. Starting from left to right, in each individual category, the light blue bar represents what we call our 2030 no build, right? So that's if we held service levels to the 16 round trips that we currently run today, just based on natural growth and population, employment, people returning to more regularized work schedules, what that's going to get us. And then the delta, right? So what is our projected average daily ridership with the increases in service? And then the gray and the yellow bars represent our best projections for an average Saturday ridership and an average Sunday ridership. And if anyone is interested in me recapping the medium and high, the methodology, go into that. But if not, we can move right along.
I just had one question. Could we go back to the slide, because I know that Chair Bonke was out of the room, that I was particularly interested in, with showing the outer Fredericksburg
Yes.
Projected growth, and there we are. I thought that was really important to just highlight, and something we should definitely want to take back to our board to discuss. If I could have that, we don't have these slides, right? So if I could have these sent to me, that would be really helpful as well.
Yeah, they should be in.
Are they?
They should have been.
Sorry, I just checked because I didn't have my computer, so I guess you couldn't find it, but okay. I'll have it.
We'll give them to you.
I could not access them, so it wouldn't let me in. So
Oh, okay.
if I can, I have to get them a different.
Oh.
We'll fix it. Make sure you get it.
This time send it to me. You have it now. You can send it to me.
Yep, I sure did.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Storr.
If percentage increases, raw numbers, any sense of percentages, obviously with the lower base or kind of higher, and the raw numbers that you at least attributed to the used to get to the percentages.
Yeah, well, we can certainly share them. Those are kind of baked into the calculations that were done. And what we basically did with methodologies, you take the entire catchment area, everywhere we serve today, right? And this, getting into the weeds here a little bit, the TAZ zones, essentially, you sum all those up and you look at what the regional models that are done by Council of Governments and FAMPO, what they're projecting in each of those zones. And so I can certainly, if you're interested, I can request those actual numbers, because it would essentially be a population in 2030, population in 2050, and then it's just simple, arithmetic there. Any other questions? So yes, just recapping the projected forecast, what's going to move the needle between now and 2030. And then we also spent some time in June really diving into the projected operating funding deficit that we're likely to see as a result of natural growth in the cost of running service, fuel, labor, that kind of thing, as well as the net increases. So right now, fiscal year 24 budget's roughly $108 million, balanced operating budget, and in 2030 we're projecting that to be expenditures of about $205 million, and we'd be projecting from the dedicated and expected revenue sources we have today about $172 million. So it's about $33 million of additional revenue that would need to be identified between now and 2030. Yes.
Have you baked into that some kind of standard increase in ticket prices?
Yes, I believe we stuck to our kind of traditional model where the fares would increase every other fiscal year. Mark, remind me if there was anything else more detailed in that estimation.
No, I don't think we want to presume specific increases to the fares. Just say, they're going to increase with inflation and sort of keep the purchasing power. We can, as a sort of baseline.
And then, looking ahead to 2050, just a pair of slides here detailing what we expect to present in March. While I would love for a system plan to talk about everything, really practically the role of a VRE system plan is to identify the desired level of service for some out year and the resulting infrastructure and infrastructure constraints that would be present, and how we propose to work through those. Some of the other pillars of future-looking plans, such as financial, governance, organizational change, implications of adding service, those are things we will identify as potential issues that need addressing, but the plan specifically in our presentation in March will not go into detail on those items. We're really going to be focusing on what is the service that we're looking to run, how much that's going to cost, and rolling stock, all that, and then also the infrastructure that's going to need to be in place and the implementation strategy for doing that. So, and then final slide here. This was a version of this was presented, I believe, in October, but right now we're at the kind of 2030 time horizon. We have a fairly strong understanding of where we want to be in 2030. And through an internal group called our Operation Planning Work Group, which comprises members like Rich and Chris Henry and Mark Schofield and others, we are evaluating, analyzing 4 discrete scenarios for 2050, starting with scenario A, which is kind of our baseline scenario. That's assuming we get to 2030, we have some increases in ridership and service, but then we need to hold ourselves to 2030 because of other constraints, right? And then from there, each of the scenarios increase in their level of complexity, intensity of service, and cost. So we're going to be presenting all 4 of those scenarios, but we're really going to be focusing on what staff feels is the best way forward for the board's consideration. I mean, that will be one of these 4 scenarios, and that will be underpinned by a number of metrics that we'll present to you and show kind of the pluses and minuses of each. So this is all I have for this presentation. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to take. Otherwise, just wanted to give you guys this brief update.
Mr. McLaughlin.
A comment as much as a question that any service increases, of course, would have to listen to the railroads. While Virginia is going to own some track, if you're having any reverse service, you can't put all the service on one track, obviously. Can't go north and south at the same time on a single track. We don't even have a dedicated third track to Spotsylvania yet. If phase 2 funded, phase 3 continues on south through your district, Mr. Stork, and then phase 4 is big one would be Rappahannock River Bridge, for instance. So just keep in mind that getting that dedicated third track to Spotsylvania by 2040 might be a good goal, because 2030 is phase 1 and 2, 2024. So just want everyone to keep that in mind. And you really want a 4-track with 2 tracks just for ourselves. That kind of funding is timelines. This is difficult to even pay. Just kind of keep that in mind that we're going to have to go to. That's just a Fredericksburg line. Southern line is a totally different matter.
Ms. Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate this presentation and forward thinking as it relates to this. My only ask is just bring us along. Bring us along so that we can make sure we're making healthy decisions as we go. And that 2040 piece is very pinnacle, because when you said 2050, our minds are stuck on 2040, but 2050 is, we have to be ahead of 2040.
Mr. Walken.
That makes sense.
Mr. Walkinshaw.
Thank you for the update and presentation. Just 2 questions and 1 comment. I think it's correct, as we discussed previously, the population growth assumptions based on the respective jurisdictions' existing land use. So one, someone could ask a question, actually looking to the 2050, what kind of potential is there in terms of ridership if land use policies change near VRE stations? And is there a way for us to incorporate a high level analysis along those lines? The answer might be it's not a dramatic, I don't know, maybe it's not a dramatic change relative to the broader population growth, but maybe it is. So that's question number 1. Is there a way to look at that? Second, again, this is certainly in the 2030 to 2050 category. Run through service, another question that will come up, right? Are we looking at the potential for run through service, or given the hurdles, physical in terms of platform height and compatibility issues that we've discussed before, do we not even think that's worth looking at for 2050? So 2 questions, and then just, in terms of the funding and revenue gap under all the scenarios, I think it's going to be really important for us as a board to figure out a way to seriously engage in the conversations that I think will start probably after this year's General Assembly session about long-term financing for Metro WMATA, because that is our best chance to hitch a ride on a train that could deliver the revenue that we need. It's difficult and complicated because that presumably will be some sort of dedicated revenue source generated in the WMATA jurisdictions, not the PRTC jurisdictions. So I think it's going to be important for our legislative committee this year to start thinking about what could that look like. And we are really the only group that can do that work. I bring it up at NVTC at every meeting, but NVTC is going to be WMATA, WMATA, WMATA. And we're probably gonna have to be the ones, when the time is right, to put on the table the way to include VRE and other transit systems in that solution, whatever it is. So 2 questions, land use and run through, and then just for us moving forward this year, figuring out how we can be part of that conversation that will start, I think, in earnest later this year.
Those are good questions. And to start with the TOD question, as the plan is currently scoped, we don't plan to do a deep dive or take like a station by station area look at, what could happen if the land use is this. But I think it's no surprise, nationally, that smarter land use around transit stations helps to drive demand, promote, sustainable development of that. One of the things we do plan to do as a follow-on to this study, after we have kind of a baseline of here's what kind of ridership we could expect with the existing planned land use, is have additional conversations with the jurisdictions, with staff, and potentially even as follow-on studies, in partnership with jurisdictions, to look at specific stations that might be the lowest hanging fruit for something different than what they currently look like today.
Yeah, I think, obviously jurisdictions are gonna make their land use decisions. I think there would be real value to jurisdictions in even having some kind of baseline numbers and understanding of, if in theory, there were 500 units within a quarter mile of a station that don't exist currently,
Mm-hmm.
how many riders do we think that would produce for VRE, right? I don't know that internally. I can tell you in Fairfax, we have those numbers for Metro. I don't know. We think through that a lot for Metro. I don't know that work has been done for VRE, and that may be a valuable role that we can play in those conversations.
Yeah, certainly. And I think the value of TOD to commuter rail, as we currently operate it, only increases when the service becomes more of a all-day bi-directional, more frequent service. And so it's kind of, you get back into the chicken and the egg thing, as is always the case of, will a developer, spend the money to build near a VRE station if the service is not where it would need to be to promote that?
Sure.
So,
It might be now that we're running those scenarios with that level of service that we can generate some projections.
and I think it also helps when the plan, when you all recommend adoption of the plan, and the commissions adopt the plan, to be able to take that on the road and say, this is what could be possible. And then let's finesse kind of in the specific areas where we think there's lowest hanging fruit through further work. So, and then, to address your question on run through. So as you recall from the presentation on the 2030 alternatives, we did some fairly in-depth analysis into the market for run through service for VRE, basically the existing VRE customers and the VRE catchment area to be traveling to points in Maryland. And what we found was it's a very, very, very small number of habitual daily trips relative to some of the other markets. And so when you take that into consideration along with the current operational inflexibility with the existing equipment and some other considerations and capacity constraints in the Northeast corridor, we elected not to include that in our 2030, in any of our 2030 concepts. And then, in 2050, we still need to perform an analysis on what kind of capacity we're going to have at Union Station. If you might be aware, Amtrak is currently working on a capacity study and has plans to expand the lower level, which is what we serve, we serve the lower level there at Union Station, to understand how much of that capacity we're going to be using already and how much of that capacity is being used by existing planned Amtrak service. And so only after that can we really say, is this something that is even feasible? But again, we don't have a way to adequately project 2050 what that demand is going to be like. You could make some high level assumptions, and if that's something that's desired, we could certainly come back in March and say, here's at a very, very high level, some projections based on existing patterns, but it would not take into consideration any new patterns that might be induced by by that service.
Yeah, am I right that Mark has a study ongoing or recently completed one or is about to start one?
I'm not sure about that.
There's a hand in the back.
Yeah, Mark is currently updating their cornerstone plan, which is their equivalent of a system plan. They started it last fall. You may have seen on social media, they had a survey out asking people. So they're developing their goals and objectives, much a similar process to what we've gone through. They're just, maybe 8-9 months to a year behind us. So they'll be identifying their future service, and it does include a run-through service of MARC trains into Virginia. We've also touched base with them, are in the process of setting up a meeting with MARC staff to discuss our system plan and learn more about what their efforts are and where they might go.
Okay, thank you. So is it our sense that on a high level, there's more potential for MARC riders running through to Virginia than demand for Virginia riders running through to Maryland? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. McLaughlin.
We've been meeting with Maryland as well. I will say that the new administration there are very focused on going through. I will note though that Union Station, there's a lot of obstacles for Mark going through the Union Station. One of the lines can come through without cutting over all the tracks in your station. Two of the lines can. So there would need to be significant upgrades. And I don't have a dollar amount. I don't even know if Union Station or Mark has a dollar amount. But there would be some significant upgrades to Union Station for those. And there's a larger Union Station plan that involves Amtrak and redevelopment and well into the billions and billions.
Thanks.
Ms. Bagley.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate some of these points because I was going to ask this MARC question actually and where it fit in and more on this angle. How do we bring Marylanders potentially into DC and Virginia and maybe to potential entertainment areas, 5 years from now? And is there a vision for that? So I appreciate that we're paying attention, I guess, to Mark's analysis on their end and maybe how it might inform the 2050 vision and not necessarily 2030. And the other, I've been trying to think about how to turn this into a question and I can't. So I'm just going to kind of express the comment that I appreciate the population slide and I want to express, I guess, one of the values I think of this board, hopefully collectively acting, is I look at that and I think about the growth that y'all are going to experience. But what I see is those are cars coming through Alexandria, through Arlington, coming our way. And that's our incentive to support. I mean, you see it as, your residents need a station and good service. But I look and I see that giant red bar and think that's a lot of 395, 495. That's cut through traffic, potentially people picking up on, cut through opportunities through Alexandria, potentially, through Fairfax and Arlington. So I do appreciate the slide and the consciousness, the land use question, because those numbers could actually get bigger. I mean, depending on the choices being made in Stafford and Spotsylvania and Fredericksburg. And I think we all have a vested interest in where how that population moves through the region. And so, I'm glad it's in there. I just kind of wanted to express that, I think every jurisdiction, even the ones with smaller bubbles there, is going to feel the effects of that population growth and needs to be a part of the overall solution for moving those Stafford, Pennsylvania, residents around. And so we'll be keeping an eye on that. And that's certainly messaging that I hope to, share, back with my constituents.
Well said, thank you.
Mr. Stewart.
Just the term clock face, is that self-evident, meaning that you're looking at similar to what we run now? Early trains and late trains, is that the point of that, or?
Yeah, so essentially the concept of clock face is, let's say you want to run a train once an hour. From a customer perspective, there's a lot of value in setting up schedules so that train hits that station at the same time past the hour, every hour of the day, because it drives kind of a predictability. So if I know that I can get down to Brook Station at 53 past the hour, and that's when my VRE train's gonna come, you know, it's a great way to set up, like, say, weekend service, because then people who want to take the train in, if there's only 7 round trips a day, know that it's 53, 53, 53, 53 all the way through the day. So that's the concept.
It means reliability, also certain times of the hour. If you
Yes.
will. Okay. And does it mean literally, I don't know, not 24/7, but does it mean 20 hours a day or 18 hours a day? Or, I mean, what, is there some intentionality about that as well? Or is it just that?
Yeah, and what we've been.
I'm just not familiar with it. I wanted to make sure that I learned the jargon that you all kind of.
No, I mean, that's a good question and something we've been talking about internally as we've started to evaluate the different 2050 alternatives is what's an appropriate peak period based on market and what's an appropriate span of service. So, you know, do you start trains running at 3 in the morning? You start them at 6, you know, and there's, you know, when do you end trains, right? So it's, I mean, we're going to be presenting that to the board in March and kind of giving our justification for that. And I expect that even in 2050, there's still going to have to be, especially for those shoulder periods, the very early and the very late, some type of market support for that. You know, there's events going on, and so we want to run service till this time, or there's early commuters, and so we need to open up a little earlier or something.
Any other questions? Great conversation. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have one additional item that we would like to talk to the board about that's not on your agenda as it relates back to the fact that we didn't have quorum today. And I'm going to turn it over to Rich and Mr. McIsaac are going to give you a little information that we can all consider.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just in full disclosure, my staff knows that, and they give me a day of the week and it's Wednesday. And I can only come up with wacky ideas on Wednesday. And I get it, it's Friday, but here's an idea, and it's in the interest of being able to move those couple of agenda items forward sooner rather than later, and not wait till the next operations board meeting, which is scheduled for February 16th, something like that. Anyway, we do have a provision within our remote meeting policy where we can meet, or the operations board can meet, I believe it's twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, fully remote. Okay, so, and I just wanted to kind of get some sense from everybody here. If this is something, and maybe we can put some communication out, and we can do this any day, any time of the day or anything like that. Just one of the requirements is we do have to open it to the public, and we have to requires a minimum 72 hours notice. But the concept is to essentially hold a completely virtual board meeting, come back to those specific agenda items, very minimized. It'll meet all the requirements, including public access and everything like that. But we can go and address, I would recommend just all the agenda items. I know we talked our way around a little bit how to get through the raise grant one. But I have to tell you, obviously we wouldn't be in front of this body if we didn't need to move some of those contract amendments and task orders ahead. So I just want to put that out there if that's something that the board may entertain. If Steve wants to, clarify any of those points. But I just wanted to put it out there. And if that's something that we could set up, within the next week, maybe 2 weeks or something, and just get those items, well, at least, have the opportunity to, for the board to formally weigh in on those. That would be a tremendous help as we talked earlier about schedules and getting some of these projects moving forward. So that's my wacky Friday idea.
Do you have anything to add?
Just to ground you in it, this is, they're actually called all virtual meetings. This was legislation that was approved. It's one of the few benefits of COVID, where we realized that there wasn't adequate authority to meet electronically. except during emergencies, and even then, what you could do during those meetings is very limited. This is actually the General Assembly's toe in the water on authorizing a completely electronic meeting for certain governing bodies. Local governing bodies, your boards and city councils cannot do it, school boards cannot do it, but a public body like the commissions and this joint committee of the commissions, the ops board can do it. So we incorporated it in our electronic meetings policy, which were approved by both commissions. So, really on the call of the chairman, we can set up a meeting, schedule it, give the proper notice, and it would be conducted entirely virtual. There's a lot of requirements regarding notice and who can participate, specifically the public. But yes, you could do this. If you're inclined to do it, we can, sort of get over the logistical hurdles and manage that if that's your inclination.
Okay, Ms. Bailey and then Mr. Walkinshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recommend that we strongly adhere to this because, as you recall, our own delegate Bennett Parker brought this forward in General Assembly just for such a time as this. And so I would support it wholeheartedly.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walkinshaw.
So we would have to have because obviously the challenge is just going to be logistical and scheduling, all of us have their boards, commissions, and authorities that we serve on. We would need 8 participating virtually.
I think that's the number. Yeah, you need to have
5
jurisdictions
and
60% of the voting capacity.
Okay, so we would need to obviously send out a poll or something to see when we're very confident we can get.
You've got, yeah, I mean, otherwise you'd have you assemble and much like this morning, you just couldn't go forward unless there's a quorum.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think it's needed to move some of these items forward, I think give it a shot. It will be a scheduling challenge, but I know Leslie can.
So I think you'll be, anybody opposed? Yeah, I think it's important, given that we have some important tasks to move forward with. So I'll ask if you'll send out a doodle poll and we'll talk about some different dates and see if we can get everybody on board to make this happen. On board meaning virtually. Okay. No other comments on that? Okay, next item is, I believe, board comments. Operation board comments. I'll start with you.
Thank you. I have no comments. Just Happy New Year.
Hey, Mr. Stewart.
Happy New Year and enjoy the snow.
I just want to thank all the VRE staff who trekked through and made it today. And somebody went to Panera in the snow to buy I don't know who does that, but thank you. Could have skipped that today. We would have been all right, but I was delivered. All right. Now, should have just taken credit, Leslie, but thank you all for
Okay.
coming in and all.
Well said, no additional comments.
Well, this is my first meeting. Glad to be a part of this. Look forward to working with everyone and getting to know everyone and doing the tour to learn more about how I can be very effective at supporting VRE. I will tell you that no one is more excited about me being on this board than my 12-year-old son, who is a red. His ambition is to drive trains, so he is so excited.
I'd be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
You can take my gift home today too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Exactly. So thank you again and look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you.
I just want to say welcome to our new members. Thank you to the outgoing leadership on this board, and welcome and congratulations to those who are new, serving in new positions. I know that Ms. Bonke is serving as chair of our board and now chair of VRE, so she's got her hands full, so let's go easy on her this year. I also wanted to give a thank you to Mr. Dalton, who I called and spoke with this morning before I headed out, and you all may not know this, but he showed up and I said I was going to hold on to this till we were reviewing him again, jokingly this morning, but he cares very much about us and our environment even, and came here. He was here an hour, I think, already when I called this morning, which was a few hours ago, already warming up the building to make sure that we would be comfortable. And so I just think that speaks to the culture and climate of VRE and how you've done such a wonderful job. Those little things matter. And so I wanted to call that out and say thank you, because I'd rather not be freezing here this morning.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate all of you.
We
Yes.
have some staff members here with us, so.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much to the staff and, of course, the mayor and all that. Welcome to my colleague, Mr. Gordy. We made it in boots time. And congratulations to our incoming, leader and to our outgoing leader, Urat. I thank you for your support during re-election season. We got some good stuff done and, and to all of my colleagues, this is a great board. That's all I got.
Okay. I'd just like to say I look forward to working with all of you. We had a little sidebar, Ms. Lamb and I did about getting contact information out of all of us, especially for our new board members, see if any numbers have updated, just in case you want to reach out to people in different jurisdictions. We'll make it very easy for you. So look forward to working with everybody and safe travels home, and consider this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.